Shalom Israel, Brother Reggie Jr. here. So today what I want to talk to you guys about is angel encounters. You know, when you read this Bible, there were times where our ancestors thought that they were dealing with men, but it turned out that they were actually dealing with angels. Now, by that same token, even in our lives, there are times where we think that we're interacting with men, but we're actually interacting with angels. Now, you might say, well, why should that be important to me? Well, that should be important to you because these same angels stand before God, and these same angels are also the eyes of the Lord that go to and fro throughout this earth. Okay, and they record the behaviors of man, whether it's good or bad, and they go back up and they report that to God. And all that to say this, that we need to make sure that at all times we are on our best behavior. And that's pretty much going to be the gist of this lesson. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Hebrews chapter 13, and I'm going to read verses 1 and 2. And it says, Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. And this word entertain simply means to show hospitality, to show love, to be friendly, to be kind. Why? Because you never know when you're actually interacting with an angel or not. You know, there are some people that you meet in everyday life and you just thinking, oh man, just some person, but it turns out it's a whole angel you talking to. And so with knowing that, you got to make sure that you're on your best behavior, because like I said earlier, these angels, they record these interactions, and they go up and they report it to God. So we have to make sure we are always on our best behavior and that we're operating in the spirit of truth. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 15, and we are going to read verse 3. And it says, The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the good and the evil. Now you're going to find out that the eyes of the Lord are actually these angels, and these angels, they go to and fro throughout the earth, like I was telling y'all a little bit earlier, and they record the behaviors of men, whether it's good or bad, and then they go back and they report it to the Most High. So now we're going to go ahead and go to Genesis chapter 28. Give me a second to get there. Genesis chapter 28, and we are going to read verse 12. And it says, And he dreamed. So we're revisiting Jacob's dream that he had about the angels. And it says, And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. So Jacob had a dream, and in this dream, he's seen a huge ladder, and it reached up to heaven. And then the angels of God, they were ascending and they were descending on that ladder. Now, what do you think these angels were doing? Again, these angels go throughout the earth. They are the eyes of the Lord. Just like we read in Proverbs, they're the eyes of the Lord. And they go and they record the behaviors of men. And I know I keep saying it, but I have to emphasize that. They record the behavior of men. And they go back up and they report that to God. That's why I said we got to make sure that we're always on our best behavior. And you might say, well, Reggie, I just don't believe that the angels are actually doing that. Well, let's go ahead and go to Job chapter 1. Now, you guys should be very familiar with this, because there is one angel who certainly does it. Job chapter 1, verse 6 and 7. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And remember, Satan wanted to accuse Job. Verse 7. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth. Remember, to and fro, just like I was telling y'all. Walking up and down in it. Verse 8, And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doest Job fear God for naught? Because see, Satan, he wanted to accuse Job. Now, what did Satan just come back from doing? Going to and fro throughout the earth. And guess who he found when he was going to and fro throughout earth? He seen Job. Now, if you know this evil angel named Satan, who's God's arch enemy, is doing it, then you know the other angels are doing it too. Now, Satan does it because he tries to accuse the saints. That's why he does it. But nevertheless, Satan is still doing his job just as the other angels do. Now we're going to go to Genesis chapter 18. And we're going to go to Genesis 18. We're going to read verses 20 and 21. Because we're going to see a few more examples of this. And it says, And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grievous. Now, I want to let you guys know, it's talking about Sodom. Okay, so it's talking about a nation and a nation of people. But never forget, you need to apply this to individuals as well. Because the same thing that we're going to be reading about Sodom, it can happen to an individual as well. Very same process. Keep that in mind. I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me. And if not, I will know it. So that's what the Lord said. So he was going to go visit and see if the wickedness was as he heard. Now we're actually going to see if the Lord goes or does his angels go. Genesis chapter 19, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5. And it says, And there came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet. And ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he, meaning Lot, pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. So we see that in the previous chapter, the Lord said he was going to go and see. But did the Lord actually go? No, he sent these two angels, because these angels are his eyes. And on top of that, we see also here an example of Lot entertaining these angels right here. Now, Lot is not unaware that they are angels. He knows that they are angels. Why? Because his mind was made aware by the Lord that these were two angels. But we see that Lot right here is entertaining these angels, meaning he's showing hospitality to them. And not just because he knew how wicked the men of Sodom was. That was also a part of it too, of why he wanted them to come inside and make them a feast and stuff. But it was also because that's just what they did in those times. They showed hospitality to one another. But we don't do that today, and we need to get that back, but we just don't do it. But let me go ahead and continue. Verse 4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. Now Lot knew that these two men were angels, but according to the men of Sodom, they thought that these two angels were men. And that just goes to show you that the Lord can open up the eyes of one person and keep the eyes closed of another person. Because again, Lot knew that these two men were angels, but the men of Sodom, they didn't know these two angels were men. And not only that, in verse 5, we see that these men, they wanted to sleep with these angels, thinking that they were men. So guess what? That proves verse 18, where the Lord, he wanted to see whether or not the cry was as he heard, and it was, because the men was wicked. They said, bring the men out so that we may have sex with them. And so Sodom and Gomorrah ended up being destroyed. Actually, let me go ahead and go to it. Genesis 19 and 24, and it says, Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Why? Because once these angels got Lot and his family out of there, they went back up. Just like I told y'all earlier, they went back up because they had already recorded what went on, what was going on in Sodom, and they went back up, reported it to the Lord, and the Lord rained down fire and brimstone on them jokers. Didn't leave a single trace of Sodom and Gomorrah left. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go to Luke chapter 1. And we're going to read verses 5 through 8, because this is concerning Zacharias and Elizabeth, concerning the birth of John the Baptist. So Luke 1 verses 5 through 8, and it says, There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judah, a certain priest named Zacharias of the course of Abia. And his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. And they had no child, because that Elizabeth was barren. And they both were now well stricken in years. So that sounds just like Abraham and Sarah's plight. Verse 8. And it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before God in the order of his course. So now we're going to read verse 11 through 13. And there appeared unto him an angel of the Lord, standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. So Zacharias is not unaware. He's aware that this is in fact an angel, but it troubled him, and fear fell upon him. Verse 13. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John. Now we're going to skip down and read verses 18 through 20. And Zacharias said unto the angel, Whereby shall I know this? For I am an old man, and my wife well stricken in years. And the angel answering said unto him, I am Gabriel, that stand in the presence of God, and am sent to speak unto thee, and to shew thee these glad tidings. And behold, thou shalt be dumb and not able to speak unto the day that these things shall be performed, because thou believest not my words, which shall be fulfilled in their season. So we see here that this angel had a name, and this angel's name was Gabriel, and this same angel dealt with Daniel. Okay, and Gabriel was sent down by God because Zacharias made a prayer that that his wife could conceive. Well, here go the angel, here goes Gabriel, and he brought the tidings to Zacharias saying that, hey, Lord heard your prayer, and your wife Elizabeth, she's going to conceive. But Zacharias didn't believe, and so because of that, Gabriel smote him with dumbness. And that's why I was telling you guys. Now here, Zacharias knew that he was dealing with an angel, Gabriel. But for some of us, we don't know that we're dealing with angels sometimes. And so we need to make sure that we're on our best behavior, because these angels got some power now. These angels, they may look like ordinary men when they appear to you, but these angels got power, just how Gabriel did right here. He smote Zacharias with dumbness until the time was fulfilled that Elizabeth, got pregnant and had John. So these angels don't play, man. That's why I was telling y'all, we need to make sure that we're conducting ourselves properly, because these angels got some power, at least the power that the Lord gives them. Now we're going to go ahead and go to Acts chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 19 and 20. Acts chapter 12, verses 19 and 20. And it says, and when Herod had sought for him and found him not, he examined the keepers and commanded that they should be put to death. And he went down from Judea to Caesarea, and there abode, because as you guys know, Peter was put in prison by Herod, but the angel of the Lord came to Peter and released him from his shackles and released him from the prison. And so when Herod seen that Peter wasn't there, he put the keepers of the jail to death. And that's stuff that they would do in those ancient times. That's why whenever somebody found a way to escape out of a prison back in the ancient days, those keepers freaked out, because they knew that they was going to get put to death. That's just how things used to work back in those times. Verse 20. And Herod was highly displeased with them of Tyre and Sidon. But they came with one accord to him. So the people of Tyre and Sidon, now I would imagine that these are the royals of Tyre and Sidon. I wouldn't imagine that these would be commoners coming to Herod. I would imagine that these would be the royals of them. And it says that they came with one accord to Herod, and having made Blastus the king's chamberlain their friend. So the people of Tyre and Sidon, they made friends with Herod's chamberlain named Blastus. And it says, and they desired peace, because their country was nourished by the king's country. Okay. Verse 21 through 23. And it says, and upon a set day, Herod arrayed in royal apparel, and sat upon his throne, and made an oration unto them. So we see that Herod put on his royal garments, and he was getting ready to speak to the people of Tyre and Sidon who desired peace with Herod. 22. And the people gave a shout. This is after Herod made his speech. And the people gave a shout, saying, it is the voice of a God, and not of a man. This would be a good time for Herod to give God the glory. Nope. 23. And it immediately, look at that now, immediately the angel of the Lord smote him, because he gave not God the glory, and he was eaten of worms, and gave up the ghost. And that's another thing that I want to tell you guys. These angels, just because you do not see them, do not mean that they are not there. These angels are everywhere. And I think that men would conduct themselves a lot better if they were able to see these angels. And I'm going to give you an example of how these angels are sometimes visible and sometimes they are invisible. And so that's why I say we need to always make sure that we're on our best behavior no matter what and no matter where we are. So even when you think, oh yeah, I'm by myself, boy, you open up your computer and there you go on the computer sowing discord. Yeah, can't stand such and such. Or you causing havoc on the computer, you typing. You may not be saying that, but you on the computer doing it. But what you don't know is it's an angel right here just doing this. Looking at everything you typing. And guess what that angel do? Go back up and report it to God. Brothers and sisters, this is not a game, okay? This is not a game. The Lord is always watching us. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to see. You know, you guys try to straighten up and act right when you know men that you can see are around. But then when men leave, then you, yes sir, I'm finna go ahead and move on to my folly. But hey, what you don't realize is about 2-3 angels in the room that you watching you do your mess. And see, if you could see them, you would act differently. And that's why I say we need to be keen on making sure that we conduct ourselves according to the spirit of truth. Now we're going to go ahead and go to Joshua chapter 5. Joshua chapter 5, if I ever find it. I always have a problem finding Joshua for some reason. Joshua chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 13 and 14. It says, and it came to pass, when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him, and he said unto him, art thou for us, or for our adversaries? And he said, this man, nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth, and did worship, and said unto him, what saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. So as we can see, hey, Joshua thought that it was a man. He seen a man. He like, and this man had a sword drawn. He thinking, okay, this just must be some, regular dude. So let me go on up to him and see whose side he on. And it turns out that it was what? It was an angel. And it says that he was the captain of the Lord's host. So that was a huge shock to Joshua. And see how Joshua was unaware that it was an angel. The angel revealed himself to Joshua. So we see here too that there are times where we don't know it's an angel, and we won't know unless the Lord gives that angel permission to reveal himself to us. Other than that, we'll just be thinking that we're dealing with an ordinary man. But that's why I said we got to be careful how we conduct ourselves, because you never know. Now we're going to go ahead and go to Daniel chapter 5. And Daniel chapter 5 is actually my favorite chapter. I love Daniel chapter 5. But Daniel 5, and we're going to read verse 1. And this is, and what the reason why I'm going here is because I want to show you guys how these angels can make themselves visible or invisible. And of course, I believe that they're always doing this according to whatever the Lord tells them, because they don't do nothing of their own free will. They do whatever the Most High tells them to do. So Daniel chapter 5 and verse 1, it says, Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. So Belshazzar is having a good old time. Now we're going to read verses 4 through 6. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. In the same hour that they was doing all that, came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw part of the hand that wrote. So he didn't see nobody. All he seen was a hand. Remember that movie Idle Hand? Well, that's all he saw. He just saw a hand. 6. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. So we see that Belshazzar was scared out his mind. And we see also too that this angel can reveal himself completely or partially reveal himself. And what he partially revealed in this case was his hand. Now, an even greater question is this. Before this angel actually revealed a part of his hand writing, how long was that angel actually there while Belshazzar and them was having a party and worshiping their gods of gold, silver, and wood and stuff? How long was that angel actually there? See, we don't think about that kind of stuff. So that's why I say no matter where you at, make sure you are conducting yourself right. Don't think just because you're not around nobody, yes sir, I'm by myself now, I can do my evil now and nobody ain't gonna be there to witness it. But it's a whole angel behind you watching you. So we got to be careful. Got to make sure that we're conducting ourselves in a good behavior, because guess what? This angel is going to go and report to God. And from there, God going to hand out that judgment. So we need to make sure that we are on our P's and Q's. Now, this is the last scripture that I want to go to. John chapter 20. And we're going to read verses 11 through 16. And it says, "But Mary stood without at the sepulchre, weeping. And as she went, she stooped down and looked into the sepulchre, and seeth two angels in white sitting, the one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And they said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She saith unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him. And when she had said thus, she turned herself back, and she saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus." Again, she saw Jesus standing and knew not that it was Jesus. This is Mary Magdalene we're talking about. Okay, she walked with Jesus, so she know what Jesus looked like, but it still says she didn't know it was him. 15. "Jesus said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master." So you better believe, if the angels can do it, if they can make themselves known and not known, you better believe the Master can do it too. Because Mary sat there and looked at Jesus, and she walked with him, didn't even know it was him. So as we see, it's the Lord who can choose to open your mind or keep it closed as to who he is, and as to whether or not you're dealing with an angel or not, about you knowing that. See, and that's powerful. And that's why I said we need to make sure that we're always operating according to the spirit of truth, because man, these angels be watching us. So You know, you on your phone, you on your computer, because you don't necessarily have to even be interacting with an angel per se. You could just be all by your lonesome on your phone, on your computer, and you up there got madness on your phone. You got madness on your computer. You up there typing and texting crazy stuff, and this angel right behind you watching. But that's pretty much it, guys. I think I've rambled on enough. But the moral of this story is that we need to make sure that we're on our P's and Q's. We need to make sure that we are operating according to the spirit of truth, because you never know when you are entertaining an angel. So I hope you guys got some understanding with this lesson. And with that, shalom.